So yeah, welcome to week 7, everyone. Thank you all for being here. Especially I know it's like a holiday weekend, people traveling and things like that. And I mean, heck, I'm filling in for Talthus. So yeah, thank you all for being here. Week 7 is, and I'll just to introduce myself in case people don't know. I'm Titus. I'm one of the other Hornet instructors here, but kind of as mentioned, I wasn't here for the first 5 weeks due to vacation, so I'm here now. Cool. So week 7, this is like the BFM week. It's basic fighter maneuvers. The things that we're going to cover today is, ACM modes, which are air combat maneuvering, or also known as ACM acquisition modes. This will be a little bit about like practically how we'll lock up enemies to kind of, gun them down. We'll go through things like BFM theory, recognizing the 1 and 2 circle fights, and then learning to quote unquote max perform the aircraft in a dogfight, meaning fly it within its uh, energy maneuverability kind of constraints and optimal kind of conditions, and then we'll practice killing or being killed as the pretty much as the big major highlight for today. So yeah. With that said, there's a lot of topics with BFM. There's a lot of resources for it. Several YouTube series, are linked here. There's a broader energy maneuverability diagram that was made by someone else. We made a simple presentation to kind of like break it down a little bit more. Also, like Art of the Kill is a very popular. Like, oh, I want to be like a fighter pilot. What's a book to read? That's one. So all that there. Cool. So, what are we doing today? We'll start like a substitute teacher, play a video.
Kill him! Kill him! Kill him!
I know.
Put the nose on him and kill him! Come on, he's out front! Shoot him!
Right. So that's gonna be what we're doing today. All right. So yeah, you're gonna be getting your nose on them and kill them. In order to do that, we'll talk about the key bindings. So this is the first foray officially into air-to-air weapons throughout the program. So this keybind might be new to you if you haven't had it bound already. It's your select AA weapons. It should be a 4-way switch, or technically a 5-way, but there's only 4 weapons to select. You can find them here. It's like sensor, or not that. Sorry, that sensor control switch. Here. I thought I had them labeled, but I guess not. But yeah, you want to select Sparrow, select Gun, select Sidewinder. Um, gun being what we'll use today to get our guns up, obviously, and then the Sidewinder, excuse me, for pulling out your obviously your Fox 2s that you may experiment with today. Finally, also, technically, you should be using the paddle switch to disengage your autopilot, but that is also relevant today if people are trying to exceed the limits of their airframe, but do so at your own risk. All right. The weapon selector here, especially for selecting your gun and Sidewinder, selecting gun is going to be critical to getting into the ACM modes that we'll get into next. So if there's any questions about these key bindings, we'll move on. Cool.
Why is Sidewinder
Yeah.
down? I always wondered that. I got mine bound to the left foot.
Honestly, mine's not set up exactly like this. So it's just what I mean. But I just know on my stick which one's which. Like it's the same switch. I just have it in my own little format. It's easier for me. So it's you can technically set it up how you wish, right? But they're all on like one little weapon selector is how it's supposedly set up. Cool. All right, ACM modes or air combat maneuvering modes. What these are is these are what's known as auto acquisition modes, meaning that they're going to automatically acquire. So there's various different modes for ACM. The most common way to enter your ACM modes is to just select your gun. By the process of selecting your gun is going to automatically set your aircraft up into ACM modes. It's going to give you a specific type of acquisition mode called GACQ, or gun acquisition mode, which is depicted here. Like I said, there's various different types of modes, vertical and wide. These are a bit more advanced, and they have their place and function. So I kind of encourage you to, maybe come back and experiment with it later. But mostly today, you'll be focusing on your gun acquisition. The second one I do want to call out is bore sight. And technically, bore sight also becomes helmet acquisition if you have your HMD enabled. So, if you have your helmet mounted display or your HMX, if that's enabled, which hopefully I'll try to remind you guys to do every time you slot in today in the range, um, bore sight becomes slaved to your helmet. So that'll become a much more important aspect when we talk about using the Sidewinders in a moment. All right. Gun acquisition mode. How do these actually work here? So gun acquisition here, it's flipped up as soon as you open up your gun. You select your gun, you'll know it'll say gun in the center here. And also, we're going to assume that your master arm is armed. Um, by selecting the gun, it's automatically going to also configure your jet in air-to-air mode. So you don't have to manually press air-to-air mode, but that is usually something that you're going to want to verify before you get into a fight. You'll see this big dotted circle here. And this essentially indicates the range that if an enemy flies into this range here, into this circle, within, I believe it's 5 miles. It might be 10, but I'm pretty sure it's 5 miles. Um, any jet that's within this 5-mile ring will get locked up instantly for your jet. Okay, that'll change the symbology. We'll go over that in the next slide, but that is kind of how that works. Bore sight looks similar. You will enable this by, once you're in, you select your gun mode. If you press up on your sensor control switch, you can enter bore sight mode. And if you have your HMD enabled, if you turn your head away from this circle and smaller circle will follow your gaze. So you can then kind of like lock things up outside of your HUD picture, as long as it's within your radar gimbal. Does that make sense? So you also see here there's a long press. So short press enables bore sight / helmet HQ. Long press is it lets you do a long range helmet acquisition. So basically, at that moment, it'll start looking for things that are quite far out, like beyond 10 miles, that are in the small circle. So if you have like a pesky jet way over here, you could kind of look up and lock them up easily with that. So just throwing those out there now. That'll be potentially more relevant in the BVR class. It'll be potentially relevant today if you're trying to, shoot Sidewinders. But you'll mostly just be using gun acquisition, which you'll enable with your gun selector.
Do you press a button to lock when you're in ACM mode or sight?
No, it's automatic actually. Hence the auto acquisition in the name. So as long as it meets the parameters, it'll essentially see it and then it'll lock it up. If there's multiple things in your picture, you might be able to hit your nozzle steer and grab the next target type of thing. Not necessarily like step through them, but you might have to like tap it and just try again. But yeah. All right. So the Gunsight. You're in the merge. You found your bandit. He's become a bogey. He's entered that dotted circle. This is what happens. You'll get a diamond indicator on top of the enemy. Diamond is letting you know it's not a friendly. If it was a square and then said friend underneath it, I would probably try not to go in for the kill. You'll have an arrow that kind of points to where the radar lock is relative to your pipper. You'll have the pipper here, which has a few components to it, like a ranging cue that you might seem similar, might remind you from uh, previous gun employments. Um, you also have this kind of the 1G foresight cue and this kind of horizontal plane here. One thing that you'll notice is that this typically tries to match kind of the direction of the radar target's wings relative to you. So that's a pretty useful cue, just as if they're trying to like turn or flip them around, noticing what this thing is doing. And then finally, the other kind of critical pieces of information that's presented here, your VC enclosure. This is your how fast you are closing with your target. So, for instance, in this example, it's showing 170 knots of closure. It means clearly behind them, but we're going 170 knots faster than what they're going, right? So we're slowly catching up to them. You can see here that we're 2,000 feet away. All right. Any question about this kind of picture thus far? Cool. So your goal is to fly your aircraft in a manner that'll get this, continuously calculated, pipper onto that diamond. So you can see here, they've, changed their angle. They've pulled their nose up higher. Um, they've gotten the radar pipper pretty much on top of the target. They're now getting a shoot cue telling computers telling them, hey, we think you're likely to get a hit, based off of where you're aiming, right? And you can pull the trigger, and nice short bursts trying to hit your target. um, Keep in mind that this is like computers trying to tell you this information, giving you like the probability of it all has its own kind of like internal calculations, so it's not a guaranteed hit, obviously. So you want to like be pretty smart about how you expend your ammunition in this, when it does say shoot like this. But this is just your best kind of indicator for trying to get a kill. um, I'm honestly my gunnery skills are pretty awful, so this is a really challenging thing to do, as I'm sure some of you are aware, and some of you will learn today. Finally, for whatever reason, if you don't have a radar, if your radar is not on or is not functioning, you'll get shown a traditional gun funnel. Honestly, trying to use this gun funnel is a lot more advanced than it may actually realize, because you have to technically plug in the size and wingspan of the target that you're trying to fight. But essentially, you're trying to use various things like 1,000 foot and 2,000 foot range queue on here, and fit the aircraft within the funnel to kind of know how far away they are, and if you're within a potential weapons solution on them. But 99% of the time, you're probably going to be using your radar gun sight. Any questions about this? These like HUD pictures? Cool. Mentioned Sidewinders. Won't use these a ton today, but usually towards the end, if people want to give them a shot, or once everyone's kind of like expended their ammo, it's kind of like a mercy kill device. Um, this is honestly, though, in reality, the most common thing you're going to do when you're getting into a dogfight, if you're playing, the game normally, and not in a 1v1 bro kind of scenario. So what are Sidewinders? These are heat-seeking missiles, meaning that they will track heat signatures like the enemy aircraft, the sun, or flares. So you got to kind of know about that. And these are the AIM-9 series weapons, typically for the Hornet. And one thing to note is that you'll know, you select when you select your Sidewinder, you'll get an indicator down here with the 9 and then a letter indicating the type of it. There's a whole alphabet of Sidewinders available. 9X is the most common and modern available one in DCS. And it's the one that I typically recommend that you fly with unless you're trying to do anything period specific. The other most notable factor of Sidewinders is there is a sound associated with it. So here's a video from uh, Wags here. He's going to talk about 3 tones, like a search tone, a "oh, you've almost targeted them" tone, and then you have a lock tone. So it starts off with this like kind of like growl that, hey, it's just active.
Now, the next 2 tones indicate
It's
that
just
the
like
seeker sees something but hasn't locked onto it yet.
so that dot
The
dot dot.
staccato tone, the bap 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 sound, indicates that the seeker sees something, but it isn't a threshold that it can actually lock onto it yet. And then the steady high-pitched tone indicates that it actually sees the target and can lock onto it.
Okay. Did anyone kind of catch that?
Yeah.
Yeah. So you'll, in order to employ these, you'll have to use your cage on cage button to allow the seeker to kind of bounce off and, go on to the enemy. It'll automatically snap to the heat signature or nearest heat signature or most intense one it sees. And you can also, if you have your helmet mounted display on, you can, when it's uncaged, you can look up and out of your HUD area, and as long as you're within the gimbal limit of the seeker head, it will follow you and try to lock on anything that you see. So if you're in that real tight circle and that other jet is literally on the other side of the circle, you can lock them up. You just got to tilt your head up and give them the business. All right. Any questions about Fox 2s? Towards the end of the day, you just, talk with your partner and be like, hey, once, if I can't use, can we go to Fox 2s after a number of minutes or something like that? Something like that. But yeah. Cool. No questions here. We'll move on to the real fun stuff. The math. Okay. So when it comes to BFM and dogfighting, there's obviously there's a lot of math and science involved. There's also a lot of art that's involved and intuition. And I like to think of it as like you know the first 20% of that skill set, the first third is just gonna be you guys going around killing each other and just learning by doing it over and over again. But if you kind of you know absorb a little bit of what these terms are, you might kind of recognize these concepts as you play the game and as can do some of these exercises and dogfights throughout you go, and it'll make a little bit more sense, and you'll be able to be a little bit more armed and equipped for fighting. So in order to first kind of understand BFM, there's really 3, I think, major kind of mathematical and geometric concepts to know here. There's turn rate, which is how fast around the circle you can go. So in this example, over the same amount of time, you can see red only traverses the same size circle a small amount of distance, but blue is going much further along that circle. Okay, same circle size, blue is going faster around that circle. It has a faster turn rate. Okay. The implication here being that blue with the faster turn rate on the same circle is going to eventually always catch up to red. Okay. Turn radius. Sorry, was there a question? Cool. Turn radius is how tightly your aircraft can turn. Okay. So in this example, red can't make a tighter turn than blue can. So blue is always in a position where they can eventually get behind red, whereas red will not be able to turn in behind blue. Okay, so how small a circle you make is your turn radius. Now, the third kind of component that also impacts and influences these two examples, which are just kind of like picture perfect kind of examples, is the concept of turn room and turning room. Um, Particularly, especially when it comes to that merge, the first 2 seconds of the fight that you're going to be going through today, is how much distance between your jets impacts your ability to actually uh, enter the circle appropriately behind an enemy. So this is more to kind of dictate as an example versus a maneuver, but it's a potential thing you can do. If you're too close, laterally to your target, you might not be able to turn, especially if you're going super fast. And if you're going 500 knots, you're not going to have the same turning radius as you would if you're going to have 180 knots. So your ability to get behind this enemy is going to be dictated based off your turn room. Also speed, but yeah. Okay. Pretty foundational and kind of topics here. Hopefully everyone's kind of getting this. Any questions? All right. How does turn rate, turn radius, and turn room kind of like what does that matter when it comes to dogfighting? Well, dogfighting is kind of all about one circle and two circle fights. Um, before we get into that, I'll talk a little bit about the merge, since this is kind of like the starting point and impetus of these fights. So just a little history lesson. The merge is when two planes are so close that their radar returns merged. This is usually what kind of indicates a dogfight. Um, Today we will be doing head-on merges. So what's depicted here. So this is not a uh, accurate depiction of a real life BFM scenario. Like, this is just to practice the skill of just getting into a dogfight and ideally recognizing one and two circle fights. So what is the goal from every merge? It's to get behind the enemy aircraft and into their weapons control zone. Look, it's a video game. You're not going to die. You think you can, like, oh, I can just, fucking snapshot, and, you get that COD mentality. I can, pull my little G limiter, yank my nose, and, snap a shot on them and win the fight early. But in reality, you don't want to actually ever put your jet in front of, or even near the front of, the enemy jet, because just because you're not using your missiles doesn't mean they're not going to use their missiles in reality, right? So uh, the goal is to get to maneuver in a fashion that gets behind the enemy, and this is kind of what I want you guys to focus on today. Right? I don't want you to be constantly trying to go for head-on shots. All right, that's the merge and the concept of just getting behind the enemy. I mentioned one circle and two circle. Every fight in a dogfight, if you will, essentially can break down into these two fights, uh, two types of fights: the one circle and the two circle. One circle is typically characterized by the aircraft might turn away, they turn away from you at the merge, um, or if you were to follow the each circle and path of each jet, it would lead to a nose on nose encounter, like in this example here. Red and blue are forming one circle with this nose on nose kind of picture. Now, just at a high level, one circles are typically beaten via tight turn radiuses, and the ability to pull high G. So in this one, a solution to this that's depicted here is, blue with the tighter turn radius is able to maneuver in a fashion that they can then, as depicted earlier, they have the tighter turn radius. They can then get behind red. All right, so that's a 1-circle fight. 2-circle fights. This is this could be described as when they turn into you at the merge, as seen here, where blue turned left towards red. Red turned towards where blue was. This leads to a nose on tail, right? Kind of configuration. That makes sense? So this is 2 separate jets making their own circles where their noses are chasing each other's tails. Now, these are usually characterized by a sustained rate fight, meaning like the jet that can go fastest around their circle usually has advantage in these types of fights. And you would usually try to extend your circle, as in like changing the position of it or the geometry of it, to kind of like meander your circle onto the opponent's circle, is usually how that's try to, you would defeat or win a 2-circle fight. All right, those are just kind of very high level concepts, but yeah, go on. Question. Great question. I would usually say, I think the best thing is,
One circle. One circle.
1 circle, but here's the thing. There's, you don't have the say, it's like, you don't, it's a, you don't always have the say in the fight. You know what I mean? Like the opponent has a say in it, right? So, you might want the 1 circle, but that doesn't mean you're going to get the 1 circle. But yeah, typically 1 circle is usually where the Hornet strives. The big difference there is we can actually, the Hornet can get a really tight turn radius.
Right.
The reality though is this is like one of those 1v1 me bro kind of things, because it's like you have to be going really slow to achieve that tight radius, and homie's wingman's just gonna fucking swoop down and kill you if you're going that slow. So it's like, you know you can try to take it slow. Like it's one of those things. Like I feel like the dogfight is very much like you kind of have to work with what the enemy gives you, and you can try your best to kind of disrupt their process and try to force the fight you want. But that's a little bit more, that's just wrestling.
Takes 2 to tango.
Yeah, like sometimes they might try to bait you to go low, and you'll just like, I'm not going down there. I'm gonna just stay high. Things like that. Who knows? So yeah, take what you get and fight it the best you can. All right, here's some just other kind of pictures here. This is mostly just to introduce the topic of uh, lead, lag, and pure pursuits. Um, the concept of these is essentially that, based off of where I really want you to just kind of pay attention to which way red is pointing in relative to blue. So in this example, lag pursuit, red is kind of pointed over here, whereas blue is a little bit more tight in. Whereas when it comes to pure, red is looking straight at blue, and then in lead, red is actually looking ahead of where blue is, kind of like trying to pull in on them. This kind of second layer of knowledge that's on there is this is also trying to depict that this is going to create different, overshoot and pictures that you might be able to take advantage of. But really, what it mostly is going to be is, how hard you're pulling on your stick versus how, being lead pursuit versus how easy on the stick you are and lazily following the turn versus lag pursuit. This can create moments where you shift your circle in those 2-circle fights. There's another kind of picture of this kind of depicting it on this slide here, with the what that kind of looks like in this example. or what it might look like from a side. The second piece here, I don't want to focus too much on this diagram, but again, it's a very similar diagram trying to depict that. What I want you guys to try to eventually learn and build a picture and intuition for is these kind of two pieces here. One is, what is the angle of that enemy aircraft in your canopy doing? Are they flat like this? Is it like pure 90 degrees? Am I like straight on top of them? Versus like, am I kind of coming up behind them? Or, they're slightly behind them in this kind of turn, right? Do you see how these are kind of like different? Like, almost imagine like you got your hand out a window, and or you're just kind of like, I don't know, I'm pantomiming, but you guys can't see me. But you just try to eventually try to learn to look for what angle this aircraft is making in your canopy. And then the second piece is, how is that maneuvering in your canopy? Is it close to your canopy bow and going up and away from you, or is it getting closer to you? These are going to be like signs and signals that are going to let you know if you're going to be in a position to maybe pull lead and try to take a shot, or if you need to lag behind so you don't overshoot, or if you need to go in pure pursuit and just trust your ability to fly your best circle and let them kind of get impatient or fuck up. So these are kind of like the things that you might want to think about, and these are kind of the two takeaways from this slide that I want you to kind of start with. Any questions about that? Cool. All right, reversals. This is one of the most common mistakes, um, you know, new players make when it comes to dogfighting, and it's again, it's because it's like media, like Top Gun has like ruined us, where you think, oh, you just gotta like just throw your stick in the other direction, they'll never fucking follow you. But in reality, um, reversing, obviously just changing the path of your circle in a like 180-degree manner, is risks having the enemy that's trying to chase you down, is risks having you intersect their line of fire, right? You're intentionally dragging your jet across their gun barrel. Okay, so it's a very risky maneuver. um, it sounds counterintuitive, but like, when in doubt, just don't reverse. Keep flying that left hand turn. I know your neck hurts and you're tired of looking over your shoulder, but you just you might be like, I just want to mix it up and go right. But like, it by changing directions, you risk getting killed. So just, that's kind of my tip there. Now, there is a time and place to reverse, and it's usually when you're trying to, you know, take advantage of like a overshoot or an excessive, closure or mismanagement from your opponent. Like if your enemy is going way too fast and they overrun you or go fat, you know what I mean? That is like a time when you can reverse and get on them. Uh, Not when you think you're trying to like shake them off your tail, because you're not going to shake them off your tail. Just assume they're an ace pilot and you'll live longer, type of thing. All right. That's all I really want to say about reversals. It's a little bit more complicated. Trying to recognize overshoot characteristics, again, that's gonna be one of those things. Like after 100 dogfights, you'll eventually kind of maybe see that for that airframe, and then you'll have to fight 100 Vipers and then 100 Tomcats, and then you know what I mean. Like you have to, every jet, every opponent's gonna be different. All right. Now, what can you do to kind of get around some of these limitations of geometry? One tactic, that you could employ is called cutting the circle. This is using, the example here is the high yo-yo or the low yo-yo, respectively. And what this is essentially doing is the attacker is in the high yo-yo climbing to trading speed for altitude, and then able to invert and turn, thus changing the angle of which, in the direction of which they're they're going to enter the, they'll exit the circle on the other side, right? So you're cutting the circle by changing, going up or down, because remember, we're in a 3-dimensional space, not a 2-dimensional space. Low yo-yo is just the reverse of that. It's kind of diving down, building up speed, so you can then kind of come up on the other side underneath the opponent. So these are honestly some of your best tools you have today, because especially if you're in a symmetric fight, like like Hornet on Hornet. So yeah. All right, any questions about that? And I think we're getting close to
I have a question.
game time. Yes.
So last night I was trying out the high yo-yos, and
Mhm.
I would go up in the air until I had a really good turn radius, and I'd swing back around, and then it looks like I'm going to land right on his tail. But then by the time I'm in a position to shoot, I'm going too fast again, and I can't pull any lead. So should I like cut power on the way down, or?
So personally, I probably would. I think usually, like I know I might have been stressing that for the most part in your dogfights, you're going to be full burner and just uh trying to maneuver. You'll be, how hard you pull is going to be dictating your speed. In reality, especially when you're like playing around with quote unquote God's G and going down, diving scenarios, you do risk overspeeding, and they can definitely that can be an energy mismanagement moment. I wouldn't necessarily say you could cut throttle. You could maybe add a little speed brake here and there. It really kind of depends on the geometry what you're trying to do. But yeah, that's a real risk, because a lot of people, they'll come shooting out, or they'll do like their own kind of like, you know, boom and zoom, or pop their own egg type of maneuver, and they'll fucking be going like 530, 540 in the Hornet, and they will be like, all right, I can't turn to get behind this guy, and then they'll zip right past him. So yeah, it's a short answer, yeah. I would maybe like I wouldn't be afraid to cut throttle briefly, as if you're risking overspeed in like a dive like that. Like, you don't want to overrun. Overrunning your enemy is worse than fucking up your intercept and just having to continue making another like 5 or 6 more laps until you get in position again to make your move. Okay, last bit about the science, and this is like that max performance thing. I'll put a caveat. I wasn't the original maker of this diagram, but but what they did do is they kind of made this energy maneuverability diagram for the Hornet and DCS. There's been a few updates to the Hornet flight model, so these numbers aren't exact. So I want you to think of this more conceptual. But the big kind of takeaway here is that there is a sustained rate turn and a minimum radius turn. And these are achieved when your jet is essentially flying within a certain airspeed band. After observations last night, and kind of what we've written down before, 380 to 420 sounds to be about the range in which you still want your max sustained rate turn, like the fastest you're going to go around a turn for at. But the minimum radius, again, this is like pretty is pretty much the same, like 150, 160 knots. Any slower, you're falling out of the sky. So those are kind of like the two kind of numbers that I want you to think about. Is like, if you're trying to make a real tight turn, be as close to 160 knots as you can. If you're trying to do a sustained rate turn, close to 380 to 420. Probably going to be where you're going to be best at.
What's that best at speed again? You say 420?
Yeah, 380 to 420 thereabouts. That'll give you the most kind of get you around the circle the fastest, as long as it's not too big or too small of a circle. Like that's kind of how it works.
I just like the number 420.
Yeah, it's easy. It's an easy one to remember.
What's the definition of like instantaneous turn? That's just like for a quick second or something.
Yeah, you're gonna basically lose altitude or at that is my understanding. If you pull instantaneous turn, like you won't be able to maintain level flight, but you will get around quickly.
Cobra.
All right. One thing to do is, okay, so lose sight, lose the fight is like is a saying, but biggest thing to do is don't give up. Like don't stop flying your circle. Like assume they are on your 6, and you need to be flying your best circle. So to do that, you need to keep turning. Ideally, what you should do is then now start snapping your camera back and looking over your shoulder to check to see if they're actually on your 6, and then visualize like the circle, if you will, that you're flying on from behind, and zigzag your view up across that until you find the enemy. Like, and don't be afraid to look down to the ground and up to through the clouds, because they might. It's a 3-dimensional plane still. Like they might be up high, might be down low, but
Press
just
F10.
yeah, if you see him. Yeah, you might. I mean, so we do have AWACS, and so they should show up on your SA page, but it doesn't update very fast. And range 2 actually might be SOL because you might be too far from all of them. But anyways. Okay. That was a potentially bad reversal there, but this is now up to 6.
Yeah, he's taking. Actually, no, I'm out of fuel. All my fuel. Smash me up, Bruce. Woo! Right, Bruce over.
Okay, Dan, you went way. Rocks, keep flying in your circle, don't reverse.
Almost, mate, almost.
Put a little juke maneuvers in there, Rocks, like a little rudder play, but
Yeah, you got
Uncontrolled left.
Just fun. Merge.
I think we're gonna run out of fuel on this one.
I didn't notice the fucking ocean coming up on it.
You crash?
Yeah.
Oh no!
We're in a dime circle.
Yeah, we were. To go to passport direct.
Honestly, like, you know, the slow tights, this guy should don't spot. The flight center down on. I think right now we have range 4 up. Yeah. That's why right now.
Wizard 1-1, Rock 200 for 150 at 25,000 gold.
The even if everyone, red 1 wants to go to red 2, red 2 to red 3, and then red 3 just dual from, or red 3 can go to red, to red 1, or it looks like they can just get out of here. Alright, let's just have all the reds just change at once. So if you're red 4, go to red 1, and then go to red side. Yeah, certain rocks you've got your fights on. I don't know if you knew that.
Yeah, no, I didn't see anything.
hit my jet and got my fucking head.
Damn. Are you dead or yeah? I take it you're dead.
Yeah,
The headshot.
yeah, it's
Respawn.
right in the cockpit.
I also hope everyone's kind of getting the feel that like this is very much like a aviation ship skill, right? Even if there is strength, it's like fly naturally. So this is a hard skill. It's actually that's really what it's supposed to be like, you know. I don't want it to people feel like it's supposed to be competitive. This is kind of, for all intents and purposes, this is not a realistic dogfight. You know, screaming about being like head on fucking kill altitude is absolutely getting an A9. You know what I mean? Like that's gonna be not a merge. Like you're not gonna be this guy. You can court-martial me later. I'm a shoot first, stand trial later kind of guy. We'll also be doing this again tomorrow. We'll be covering Talbot's session. So, if you want to have at it tomorrow, there also might be some interplay with the Vipers potentially, but I don't know if I need to add a bunch more ranges and aircraft, similar aircraft. This time we do it tomorrow. Yeah, if y'all want to try Sidewinders, give it a shot. Let me know how it goes. But I might have some minutes or so. Are you offensive or? I already give him a fox too. The other guy turning your head. It's a fun one to also try. So it's like if you're in that turn circle, you might look up and lock them up with your sideline. This will basically fry straight up. 150 at 25,000 cold.
Yeah, I'll fly straight and get me.
Well, he runs out of gas. He's not going to be very hot. You guys are going to see this right, so yeah, you're going to have to lose that off. Try also careful.
I don't have distance. Take the shot. Take the shot.
I can blow up last shot.
Oh, do you not have Fox 2s on your aircraft? That's all it is.
There you go.
I still have my Fox 2s though, so extending's not a good idea.
That's fun. We're gonna do this next week.
So this weekend it's we're sort of and then next week actually so it's not perfect. It's always going to look like the bullets are going across. Because that's because it's a the gun is a the gun's not nimble in the top. It's just gets stuck. So that's just kind of like fix that part of the gun. But it's hard to get.
inside the circle would give you 1,000, 2,000, probably being 1,000.
But that's the gun.
No, it wasn't the funnel. I didn't have a funnel, but I was in gun mode. But it was the circle like you had mentioned, or shown in the. You know, I'm probably just gonna have to practice this and go over the lever again. But I'll be there tomorrow. And my buddy is into this dude. He's got a long But that was a hell of a lot of fun, man. I actually was able to keep my eye on the. Because that's where I'm having trouble with this. Keeping my speed up and the G's and all that. Fall out of the sky. Yeah. I was able to keep my eye on my average. So that's a huge jump up.
But yeah, I mean it's. We're just trying to. Is there anyone that's on that?
Flash!
Let's try a different exercise here. We're gonna start the 2-circle flow, and I just want you to work on rating the circle lines. Wow. We're good now. So on the merge, Bo, you're gonna turn to your right. I'm also gonna turn right. That's gonna put us in a window.
There he is. Got him.
I'm also not going to use my afterburner in this, so you should have plenty of rating. Right, and fights on. Start chasing. Okay, I don't want you to like right at me. Hit me. Coming now. There you go. There you go. Good hit. Good hit.
Oh shit.
Let's reach that one.
Out of energy.
Kill them. Alright. Same exercise, but this time I'm going to use my burner.
Can I respawn?
Bad reverse today.
Yeah, reslot and respawn.
I took a hit and I lost power, so I ejected.
I'm still trying to get in.
I think range that there is.
gauge what to do.
That's all I ever done. All this other pushing button shit is new to me.
Okay. Alright. So I will just treat you like you know what you're doing.
Red.
I'm going to respawn, otherwise we're going to be too close.
Putting the pilot and the fighter pilot there, I guess. Judges, rather.
I forgot to jettison my tank.
Winchester still okay? I'll just have to respawn.
So which ring is blue 5 and which is
Sorry, that's Racco, I mean blue 1.
Good fight.
Good fight. That was a slow fight.
Oh, I got you.
And we also have, I think, some ranges have multiple pickups. If you want to do some 2-2s for fun or something, just to make it active.
Hey, Rox, how about channel competition?
Laying around underneath.
Server 3 passes.
Oh, shit.
You didn't respawn?
Shit.
Sorry, I'm literally in like 3 conversations at once.
But you won that one.
No, you just need to respawn. I had shot you the first time out. I didn't realize you tried to do the same thing.
Oh.
Yeah, just like roll and hit the same slot again. And there you go.
Alright, cut the circle.
Free to come back in on range 7.
I wondered why you were so so far out of position. There you go. Alright.
This remote, like, does everyone like kind of not have any issues if they're gun acquisition?
Oh, shit. Oh!
No, I got my gun! Oh my gosh.
That's a Tomcat, should I go west? Thanks.
The other, so 1 to 5 swaps.
Oh, 1 o'clock.
2,
First one, right side.
you could probably swap.
Oh, shit. Damn it.
Good rush.
Fun, you can still win this. Wait a minute, there's a Tomcat here.
We did 2 Tomcats.
Right engine, right engine. He's coming out, he's on our stage, on our stage.
There's gonna be 3 in a minute.
4 o'clock. Watching for the pole. Behind, he's going left, Coming around, 7 o'clock. Yep, 9 o'clock, low.
Come on, overshoot you, motherfucker.
Unintentionally, I think. No joy?
Man, your control is crazy.
Got him 3 o'clock.
Alright. Ready to go again when you are.
You want to eject, call it.
I had absolutely peppered with my nose and still flying.
Nice kill.
You're pretty good yourself. Where am I sparking?
I don't see you. Oh, there you go. Uh-oh, I'm dead.
Yeah. Get that overshoot. So what do you guys
Hell yeah.
I guess we can put that in.
We're on to a destination. I can't see anybody, I just have flying.
Yeah.
That's going to be harder to win this fight with, but, you know.
I mean, that's one of the unfortunate things that Next week
thought I
also
did.
will be a BDR, so more similar.
Extend away from him.
2 weeks because we delayed our cycle start. But behind it's also like we teach an additional week.
You guys teach like 3 years.
Well,
I don't think you reslotted there. I'm gonna reslot and give you a chance to get yourself reslotted.
So I go to select role.
I'm currently sitting in red.
You hit release slot at the bottom, and then you re-click the
it's happening.
It's also the Tomcat. Why does
Some
my
people are like super like, oh, I want my
Yeah, you already got your wings tried to kill you in the dogfight. Tomcat.
Anybody want to BFM on 18 or 14?
Hit him.
That's fine.
Alright, so there's a Tomcat on 7. I suppose if anybody wants to, just let me know which range I'm going to and I'll spawn anyone.
He's hurting though.
What speed are you at? I don't know, you killed my electronics. You're really slow. And the Tomcat doesn't feel that. Tomcat isn't very good.
If I don't get the shot, he's gonna bail out and stand up.
Remember, first things first, you find your circle.
There we go.
Yep, that's it.
Yeah, that reversal kills you every time. I've done it.
Yeah.
No reverse.
I can't outrate you. It seems like
Yeah.
The other two is competitive in the rate enough that like pilot skill matters more than the couple degree difference. You should be able to rate with me, especially because like I'm not like max rating the F-16.
Eventually it will load.
yeah, as you bleed on my damn airspeed, and then I get down to like 134, and I'm shit. That's it.
Yeah. So you got that one good pull, but you know, and you have capitalized on that pull a couple times and like made it count. But like if you miss that shot, you're in a rough spot.
We're in check.
Oh, let me jettison my tank. Do I have a tank? Yeah, I got a tank. Let me get. I do. Let me get rid of that shit.
Yeah, you definitely should be carrying that shit.
I don't know how to do it.
The emergency storage jettison button.
With this emergency storage. Yeah, I've been fighting you with tanks. All right, let's do it.
shot.
Low, real low.
See him?
I'm looking behind me and all doink
come up
in front of me. Well, yeah. All right, let's go to gamers then.
Where is he?
My seat or something. All right. Okay. Later, guys.
86, hang on. Oh, right in front of us.
Yeah, I know.
Does anyone know?
Fuck, lost both engines. Both engines.
We've lost both engines.
Yep.
I just can't maneuver. This thing's just not doing what I want it to do.
Gotta make it do what we want it to do.
Can't see him. There he is.
We already ejected.
Is it possible for me to change
There you go, bleeding the speed. Got me slow.
You're getting yourself slow, man. You're getting a little greedy with the stick, and it's costing you the fight.
Yeah. Now you.
Just get greedy.
I don't know.
Anyone mind if I join range 7?
I'm looking at you.
We're currently fighting, but then afterwards
you.
we can go against one of us.
Pull the lead. And we're gonna do this.
You gonna try that move?
Who am I fighting in range 5?
God, I hate the fucking Hornet.
Oh, nice, you got me. I lost sight for a
Fuck.
moment.
On the radar.
Oh my fucking god.
Whew.
Hey, Arena 6, you want to do Sidewinders?
Does anyone know where I'm
Oh my god.
Where's that man? Merge coming down the right side. Merge.
We switched to Sidewinders already, apparently. I got taken out by one.
Go Buckeye.
I see him.
Second merge.
Uh-oh. I don't know where he went.
He's going down. He's going low.
Come on.
God damn it.
Down.
I don't know where he went. I'm fucked. There. Oh my god. Top Gun moment there.
Come on. It's not turning.
Oh, I've got no speed.
Giving it full authority and it's not doing anything.
Overshoot.
We also lost an engine.
Come on. Hit the nose.
Bad merge. Bad merge.
It's just not maneuvering.
You don't know why?
I can't get it to maneuver. It literally will not maneuver.
Yeah. Take it pretty
What would you do in this situation?
If I were you?
Yeah.
Not fun. You're just gonna have to do the same shit you've been doing, which is like, give me over.
Man, you got 6 foot speed management.
Keep her nailed. Afterburn. Don't let off.
Oh, he's shooting me.
Oh shit, I didn't even see you. You must have been right on my ass.
This is the only time I use the rudder in the F-16.
Let me...
Ooh, my seat going crazy.
Yeah, you kind of going in that.
Ooh, God, oh, gosh, jerking me all around.
Yeah, so like
There in the drop tank.
Oh, I'm falling.
the other thing you can try is